on the importance of reporting system in zero harm journey. Prof. Adil Batawil is active in the field of risk management and patient safety since 2008. He established risk management and patient safety at King Fahd Medical City, and he contributed to Ministry of Health Risk Management and Patient Safety Manual. He led the team for patient safety taxonomy, and he introduced electronic reporting system in 2012 for KFMC and advocated for a national unified reporting system. He has background in rehabilitation and psychology specialty, as well in decision making and also error making. Now to highlight for participants before we start, kindly post your question in the Q&A icon as you can see at the below tab. So our speaker will answer them gladly within the lecture. Let's move now to our session. Please welcome Dr. Adil to deliver the presentation on this very vital subject.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Nada, for the introduction. I really appreciate that. And really thank you, Saudi Patient Safety Center, and also Ms. Rawan al-Shahri with us from Saudi Patient Safety Center to help us. And thank you, of course, the participants for your time, and also thank you WHO for actually organizing and working together to make really healthcare safer. Okay, we're getting there. It's a long journey. As you can see, the title is about really twofold: is reporting system and zero harm journey. Zero harm journey is as it says, it is really a journey, a long journey, and it's worth it because most countries, if not all, really suffer from huge expenditure on litigation in billions, and also in the death rates, injuries, disabilities. So it's a very, very sensitive issue and extremely important. The reporting system is just really an enabler. It's a very, very important enabler. You need that psychological safety where people can share their mistakes and learn from it. So you need to enable them by having a reporting system that can actually work with them and work with others. They can actually have the ability to actually involve the team together to resolve any incidents or risks as a team. And it's vitally important that to make it non-punitive reporting, where the leadership is really committed to actually advocate for this. Of course, there is accountability, but I'm talking about the reporting, where people can actually report, even anonymously, without mentioning their names, because the message is much more important than the messenger. And also, really, it does make the organization rather flat in the hierarchy, because once you are working with a team, you are actually calling for anyone to be together. So the journey for zero harm as well is very, very important. And let me tell you something, the zero harm journey is really very, very wide and huge breadth and depth, because there's no one simple answer or solutions. I thought this was vitally important with the reporting system, that you know what's happening at the moment in the research, in the industry, what's happening, and how people, really organizations across the world, trying to tackle this from different perspectives. You could call it a race with many tracks, to be honest, sometimes competing because they are not really sometimes overlapping, but sometimes complementing each other, because they're trying to address the same objective, which is zero harm. Okay, so just to really let's make a start, just to break, if you like, the ice. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm sure you can see a brick wall, all of us. But I want to ask you a question. Can you see something sticking out of the brick wall, something unusual, something shouldn't be there? Rawani, you can actually run the survey so that people can say yes or no, or maybe 5 seconds, so that to see if people can see what's in the sticking out of the brick wall that shouldn't be there. Once it's done, Rawan, let me know. Okay, it's there. If you want to vote, please let me know. You can move it away from your screen to the side and just press yes or no. Can you see something sticking out that should not be sticking out of the wall? I'm sure you can see the brick wall, but can you see something unusual in this picture? Which is, I found it really rather interesting. Actually, normally it's a video clip, but I thought this is just a picture so that to save time. Okay, I think that's enough for now. So how many people? Some, okay, so some, many saw it. Okay, if you did see it, I'm not being anything because I did not see it. A lot of people did not see it. If you haven't seen it before, okay, so this is really very good. And if you have not seen it, don't worry, because I did not see it first time as well. Even Dr. Nada, even my staff and others. For the people who said no, let me show you something. And before actually I show you something, I want you to remember that this picture, you'll never see it again the same way. All right, so this is it. I'm going to actually show you what's sticking out and then show it to you again. Can you see the cigar? Now, I'm sure you will never see the wall or the brick wall again the same way. And this is very true. Just to really remind you about this webinar or lecture. It is, I hope we can finish it because it's rather long, maybe an hour and a half, hopefully, you know, enough, but at least I'll try to reiterate the main really lessons that we need to remember and to take away, because we cannot go into details in a lot of things, but I'll try to give you some things that you can take with you and really utilize. Some really simple things so that we can actually benefit. So the lesson from here as well is really we have to know, we have to remember, and say we're in say King Fahd Medical City, we have a lot of residents, a lot of interns, and a lot of junior people, nurses, physicians, and so on and so forth. And sometimes they cannot, or they do not see what say a senior person can see. So we have to remember that. And even sometimes in a novice situation, okay, in a novice situation, even the expert, I've been actually investigating sentinel event for the last 12 years. It's amazing. It's across the board. No one is immune to errors. No one is immune. All right. We can reduce harm, but we cannot stop or reduce errors easily, or we cannot even stop it actually, because with harm, you can, when learning from errors, you can actually with time use and utilize certain controls, right? And I'll mention these 3 controls all the time because I've been teaching my staff these 3 words. These 3 words is from at least from my journey in risk management, especially. I mean, there are many standards in risk management, maybe 5, 6 international ones. There's the MOR, for in the UK, and IRM, and COSO, and the ISO 31000, and so on and so forth. I'm certified in at least 5 of them, and I'm telling you, for the long journey, 3 words can help us a lot, which is prevention, detection, management. My staff really have these 3 words. You can have them for any litigation, for any RCA, and for any risk assessment. And as we go along, I'll actually repeat it and I'll tell you how we use it. Okay. So in here again is something that where people sometimes cannot see, or they only see what they can see or what they're familiar to see. So psychologically, we have to remember we will err. As they say, to err is human is very true. So that keep that in mind. And for expert, whether we are able to see the video or not, but there's a video called Just a Routine Operation. It's from the UK, way back in the 80s, where the human factor started. 3 experts, 2 actually anesthesia and 1 ANT consultant, they could not intubate, and they had this tunnel fixation, okay, where they couldn't actually see but that patient, and fixating on the they were fixated on the task of intubation.
Dr. Adel,
Yes.
the slide, can you move on the slide, because we have the brick slide on the
Yeah. I'm still talking actually.
Okay.
I know, sorry. Okay, I'll move the slide so that you know it's moving. Okay. Actually, that's one of the things that I have to warn you. Sorry, I talk too much, and so an hour and a half maybe is not enough. But I do repeat the lessons so that it sticks to the mind, because then at least you can use it for years and benefit from it. Okay, thank you, Dr. Nada. Sorry about that. So, and actually we fixate on the task, and then when you are fixated, by the way, this is one of the notorious and most dangerous, really, biases in human, which we will come across a few times in this lecture, is the fixation or the tunnel vision, where when there's a tunnel vision, all the studies say it's not just tunnel vision, but when you fixate on one thing, actually you cannot even hear anything around you, around you. And the nurses had the tracheostomy set, but we did not hear them. Okay, so to err is human. However, not learning from it is inhuman, in my opinion, because it will harm another human again if it happens. So first time is an error. You can have an error, okay? But the second time, the same error, not learning from it, is a choice. And then the third time, it becomes a habit. And after that, it becomes a culture where it's contagious to other colleagues. And believe it or not, it might actually surprise, I'm sure some of you in the audiences are maybe patient safety, risk managers, or quality, or different background. And I'm sure some of you different physician, nurses, pharmacists, and so on and so forth. But 90% in the studies, recent studies, is 90% incident caused by human. For quality people, I'm sure they say is the system, and maybe it's true, but to a certain extent. But from my experience, it's not just really system. And for the last few years, is one of the things that I, in my humble professional opinion, where in the healthcare went wrong, is concentrating on what we call it system factors, which is when it is to a certain extent, but the human is actually what's causing a lot of issues in our healthcare, okay, as well. So we have to really move maybe away from other industries to actually address this issue. Right, so we can reduce the harm, but not the errors, because if you do actually learn from the errors, you can prevent it, you can detect it earlier, and you can manage it better. So it prevent it so it doesn't reach the patient, detect it just about when it reaches the patient, manage it better than the first time when it reaches the patient, so you can reduce the harm. Prevention, detection, management. Please just remember these 3 words for any RCA, for any the legal issues in healthcare or any risk assessment. Because when it comes to controls, you need to do prevention to reduce the likelihood of the risk, and you need to detect it, and you need to manage it, manage the consequences. Right. Okay. Let me run this video. Actually, I like this video, so just it does show a lot of issues that we can actually commit. That was a bad morning. Yes. I'm sure this is familiar. It could have been localized sound alike, laser medication. Okay, it could have been harm. It could have been wrong patient, wrong site, wrong site. It could have been anything. And this is the usual way, to be honest. But what I need to actually draw your attention to. So this is possible. Anyone can do it. The other thing that I need to actually draw your attention to is when you do a risk assessment or when you actually document things in the report system. One of the important thing to remember is the from the ISO 31000 or any really risk assessment standard is the context. The context, the environment around you, right? When the environment, you cannot do the same task, okay, in the same way or the same way of thinking. Thinking style, I will come to it after, so we'll learn, will differ. And in my research paper, we need to have different style of thinking for different tasks. So this is another lesson we need to learn. The context is another lesson. When the context, as you can see, it is snow. It's very harsh environment, very hectic. Just like ICU, ER, or busy ward. It's not like a normal just floor ward where there's just a medical easy pace. Okay, this is very harsh. So when things are harsh, you need to actually raise your awareness, your mindful thinking. Okay, that I have to be now extra. So you need to be prompted. You need to actually yourself and your staff or anyone actually practicing, okay, in healthcare. The environment is different. Even if it's a normal task, routine task, I have to now raise it because it's easy to make an error. So prevention, detection, management, the context, the environment, if it changes, you need to change your way of thinking. The thinking style is different from nurses to physicians, for sure. This is proven. However, because each thinking style is independent, you can actually switch between them depending on the task and the environment you're in. So why one of the things that I can show you how in a simple way how harsh environment like ICU or ER or hectic environment can actually affect how you see actually risks. It's just as simple as this diagram. The orange circle is the same size, believe it or not, but the one on the right looks bigger. Why? Because the surrounding environment not as harsh, not as big, right? And when it becomes bigger or harsher or hectic or busy, can you see it starts the risk starts really hiding, and the error will become much easier to actually commit. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so King Fahd Medical City, we have hospital centers, the main hospital, children and women's rehab, and National Neuroscience Institute, and King Salman Heart Center, and Comprehensive Cancer Center, and obesity, endocrine, and metabolism centers. Of course, all the accreditation that most of you are familiar with. We had a long journey, actually, as I said, trying to learn from it, and without risk incident reporting system as an enabler to to collect, manage, brainstorm, because you can add people to the reporting system so they can brainstorm the incident. Empowering teamwork, because then it's a lot of you heard about the HRO, high reliability organization, and one of the one of the dimensions there is reference to expertise. In here, whoever's handling it, even if it was junior, can call upon others to actually work together. It foster accountability and improve the psychological safety. Of course, it's empowerment, it's accountability, and it's actually the psychological safety is protected by the leadership. The journey would be smooth and rewarding, but without that, it would be incomplete and inefficient and ineffective, because you will not actually resolve it. It'd be inefficient way of resolving things, and it'll be incomplete because it will happen again. Right. So we are safe. We're not safe, but we are safer, and we can make it, inshallah, more safer as we go on. So the journey, as I said, way back 2008, we needed part of accreditation in risk management program. And it was based on the MOR, as I mentioned to you, management of risk. This is what we have introduced at the beginning. And then 2009, the ISO 31000 came about. And as you can see, it has the framework and the principles and the process. And in the framework is just really the infrastructure you need to have in place for a good risk management. And the principle is just to evaluate the program, and the process is how you actually use to identify and score risks. And here, I know it's small, but you can see, but the first thing I will point for the process is really the context, as I mentioned to you before, right? ARM journey, and then 2010 for the whole King Medical City. We introduced the reporting system in 2012, go live, and we had the conference 2003 for that, and then we started the journey helping MOH as well, risk management and the unified reporting system. And then probably 2016, the taxonomy, reporting taxonomy, we helped actually and led. We were actually honored to lead the team for the patient safety taxonomy, and then we helped as well MOH for the manual, which is mandatory since 2008 for risk management, and then advocating for actually unified reporting system called SALTAC. And then I was honored with working with the Saudi Patient Center to review the center event manual. Now, there are always challenges to implement anything new, by the way. There's always a change. Sadly, change is the only constant thing in life, which is true. But there are always ways to actually help. There are many models, okay? I'm not going to actually go through models here about change management, but there are some that, you know, I looked at and had courses in. But I'm talking about my own experience, my humble professional experience in how to tackle the challenges when we introduce a report system or any change. You will have always political and cultural and technical, which is, you know, logical there. And political is normally from leaders, culture from all, because leaders and frontline, they don't want change. And then, of course, the technical part, which is the frontliner, they need to actually learn. So there's this fear of learning something new. So I thought this is the what. What would they lose? Of course, why do I need to change? And then how do I change? And I made them into three really letters, only three H's: the head and the heart and the hand. So the head is you need to actually address the what. It's the logic, it's the understanding, the data, and what involves, blah, blah, what do you need from, and then the heart, you know, why do I need to change, and why is the emotional part, okay? So you need to assure them and engage people. And then the hand, of course, the hand is the skills. you need to actually skill people and make it easy for them actually to report. So the head is what, why, and how, and the logic, direction, task, data for the head. And you need to actually engage people. Okay, if you're introducing a reporting system, or if you actually continue with it, you need to make them passionate about it, emotional. I understand, make them understand this is, to actually protect even patient, and engage them in the categories, subcategories, and how they report and why they report and the flow. So there is an ownership, and then of course the how, or the hedge hand, is the skills. You need to train them, give them resources, and protect as well the policy and procedures to protect them from actually any retaliation. So really, the 3H is very important in any change system. I'll ask you a question, too, which is like, if you have these two treatments, one that can save 200 lives, and one has this actually probability, which one would you choose? Okay, Rowan? Rowan, can you give them the, thank you.
Yes, it's here. So you can vote now which one is your choice.
You can share as well, Nada, you can vote. Okay, I think that's enough, Rowan. Thank you. So what's the results?
Okay, A 61% and B 39% vote for B.
Let me just one
So-
second, Rowan. Keep it there because I need to. So A is 61%. Okay, good, fine. Okay, let's move on. Thank you for this poll. I will come back to this later on, okay? I promise. All right. So at least I've got it there, and just write it down. 61% for A and 39% for B. Okay. So let me just now carry on with certain aspect that we need to keep in mind. Do you feel happy as a patient to go to a hospital? Is it a choice? No, it's not. Are you really a customer when you go to a hospital? No, you're not. As a patient, are you really in control? No, you're not. As a healthcare provider, are you really also in control of your care? The input, the process, and the outcome? No, really. I'm sure this is a beautiful, nice cars. When you go to buy, you have a choice, the colors, the brand, and how much money you can spend. And I'm sure you'll see a nice environment, clean, the same with shopping. A lot of us like shopping, food, eating food, restaurants. I love food. So this is a beautiful restaurant, and you would choose what to eat, and how much you eat, and everything is really pleasant. Some people like traveling. I'm sure some of you like traveling. Again, you would not actually board in an airplane that is not working properly. Cinema, you choose what to watch. So customers and merchandisers are in control. You both have equal terms and grounds. You're happy, you're free will, and start from the best conditions. We do not start from the best conditions, patient or healthcare provider. We do not. We need to keep this in mind, because the table is flipped. The thing is flipped. It's the other way around. We start from the worst conditions. Okay, things might seem like this for other industries, but sadly, this is how it looks for healthcare providers. For us, it's bumpy roads. It's not really an easy road. Okay. Resources and availability of things and knowledge and all that, I'm sure it looks like this. Sometimes we lack a lot of resources. We're stretched, we overstretched, burn out, long hours. All right. So a lot of people, a lot of you, or some of you, or many of you, and maybe done quality projects and or CBHQ or and other really courses. And I'm sure a lot of you know Edward Deming. He's a guru for quality, and he should be. He was very, very influential, actually. He's American engineer. He went to Japan and transferred the car industry to how Japanese now really actually dominating the market. And he is into system, and 80 to 90% is actually system, not human. And this is, again, as I say, this where I think, in my opinion, professional opinion, and more than opinion really, is where I think healthcare really went wrong. And also Phil Crosby, again, a lot of you in quality would have actually heard of it and heard of him. And again, he reiterated the same percentage, and many other gurus in the industries of where the machines actually it's a machine system rather than anything else. So how does this machine system that whether Deming or Crosby or others we look at that they talk about is like this, and I do agree with them. If the system is like this, it's a machine system, and the human is a component. Is really a component of it. So yes, in this situation, and this mindset is a machine system, all right, where there are certainty, there are there's less probability actually for the outcome, and the human will be affected by the machine system. So you have to improve the machine system, and these systems actually are complicated systems. All right, but our really industry is a human system. It's uncertain. It's the other way around. The machine is part of the human system, right? And 80 to 90% is uncertainty. And this is how we should really, in my opinion, professional opinion, and my research and other actually studies, this is how my conclusion is. We need to actually flip the thing and look at it in this way, that it's a human system and the machine is part of it, right? Okay, so one of the tracks that I was saying to you, again, you have there's a lot of things going on in the industry at the moment for healthcare to actually have different tracks so that we can reduce error. And the enabler is a reporting system to actually repeatedly try to improve your system. So you need to keep this in mind, how to reduce error and how to report them and to learn from them, and then how to reduce error, and for the in the industry, I'm sure all of you are aware of the artificial intelligence. Actually, one of my background is artificial intelligence way back late 80s, and also psychology. So it's they need to actually you have the human where we started at the very beginning, and then the artificial intelligence or technology started aiding us, right? So that now they one of the tracks or the fast tracks that actually in the industry they're doing, they're trying to actually invest in this to reduce errors, right? And then the technology started really complementing us, the MRI, CT scans, so on and so forth. They are complementing you really. Are they going to be controlling you? Well, maybe. Are they going to replace healthcare? Well, this is one of the track, to be honest, and it's very important that you're aware of it when you attend the radiology technology and everything, because I have seen really even nurses robots. She had a camera, and actually they can even through the camera they can actually know the temperature of the person, or the patient that is touching him or her. So it's all about reducing the uncertainty to be certain, right? So one of the tracks is really technology, and it is actually a very fast track. It is it's moving in a fast speed. So, and also they're trying to humanize technology, meaning just to look like the robot, look like a human, and emotions and things like that. And believe it or not, on the other hand, is some technologizing humans, believe it or not. They're using at the moment and successfully, this is done already, using the DNA as a USB, as a storage data. And believe it or not, 1 gram only of the DNA can store the whole internet information, right? And is it being done? Yes. And is it at the moment? It's very, very expensive, but it's, you need to actually bear in mind that the competition between us, our human, and this, it's like a T, letter T. You have the breadth and the depth. For us, we have breadth because some breadth, of course, breadth like extended, because we have as human, whatever you specialize in, you are still a father, a mother, a sister, and so on and so forth. There's the understanding of human. There is maybe other specialty, and you have some depth, but it was limited because the amount of research and articles every day is huge, so you cannot keep up to date. In technology, the depth is unlimited. They can update. They have internal reporting system, believe it or not. They reiterate every second, and they try to learn. And they actually try to move them to have as well breath, just like human being, so that the emotional part is integrated. Supercomputers are coming at the moment. They're called beta, and then they move to exa, and neural network started, and then machine learning, where they give examples and then they learn from it. Like this is actually now being used in radiology, and then deep learning. They don't need examples anymore. You give them concepts, and then when quantum computers come, it's a huge revolution. We need to bear that in mind. Now coming back to as well the industries, you heard about Lean Six Sigma or PDCA or Deming of quality. But if you look at Lean Six Sigma, they're very successful in a lot of industries like automotive, biotechnology, and it says here education, electronic, and government, and mining, of course, and even healthcare. But when it comes to technology, you can have huge Lean Six Sigma, but it's not really as successful with human. Right. Now, what do we have? For the dimensions of quality, if you think about it, from a system point of view, okay, like an input process and an output, the first thing is the patient want is be nice to me, right? Like patient family centered. Okay, so from the beginning is a human to human interaction, and then heal me. Okay, so for effective and efficient and evidence-based and so on and timely, again is the human actually diagnostic, the human treatment is human to human to be effective and efficient and timely is heal me, and then of course don't harm me as an outcome, so safe as a dimension. Again, it's something that we need to learn and iterate, using a reporting system. So really, all the time, we and of course, we'll not forget the equitable, where it's available to by the be fair to everyone. So really, these dimensions are all really human to human, right? And we need to keep that in mind. Normally, well, patients should be in the center, which of course I agree there, but really the truth is, in reality, it's the other way around. It's the healthcare provider is in the center, because he or she will have the challenges of the patient, whatever the comorbidities and symptoms and complaints, and the task structure, the task that he or she is doing, the environment, the facility, other healthcare provider for communication, human to human, and personal issues, fatigue, tiredness, medication, so on and so forth. So really, it's as the flip, as I was saying to you, is the human that actually are in the center, trying to actually juggle all these factors. And this is actually in the literature. I'm sure this is really very true. We have, when we are in the center of all this stress, sometimes we carry on our own biases, all right, our own shortfalls. And we see what we see. I remember at the very beginning, we see what we actually being educated to see, the culture, the language, where we come from, the knowledge and the skills. And we believe we're doing well. I mean, this rhino is producing work, is producing care, is producing his art or drawing. But really, it's not the drawing that that is effective. All right. There's always an error there that's present in his own perception. Are you sure this is how we get data into cloud? I mean, I'm sure the IT technician there is, I think he's shocked or stunned to listen to his boss thinking about this. And that's why when HR or high reliability organization is deference to expertise. So we need to have that human interaction and say, well, he is or she the expert. They can lead, even though regardless of your actually hierarchy, we need to actually have that interaction. Always there is the miscommunication and the insistence that, I see this is a 9 and see, oh, this is a 6. And then we start really not communicating well and affecting the patient. And actually these argument, there's a lot of it in ER with the two specialties, who should be having the patient and who should not. And we have all this time because this is how and then the patient really suffer of the errors. This little girl, she's happy with her care to this patient, the fish. She's happy because she thinks that she saved the fish from drowning, and this is her perception. Okay, and this is really the more one of the biases, the dangerous biases. I would call it narrative fallacy, where you overconfident, bias to say, well, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to actually ask. I'm going to actually go ahead, prescribe this. I know the amount of dose. I know the weight of the patient. I don't need to do the independent double check-in. Everything is there in front of me. I don't need to. I can save time. I can be, I can tackle this. I'm sure the diagnosis is just right. It's something healthcare suffer overconfidence or narrative fallacies, where we talk to ourselves and we think just because we talk to ourselves in a logical way or our understanding is right. Okay, so how does healthcare actually, how hazardous is healthcare? Well, this is how hazardous it is. It's the most hazardous out of all these industries, whether it is even nuclear power, even actually rocket science, believe it or not, airplane, bungee jumping, mountain climbing. This healthcare is the most dangerous. All right. This is okay. Why is it dangerous? Very simply, it is a complex system. Right? It is a complex system. This is actually documented in the literature. It's a complex. What do I mean by complex? You have a simple system, baking a cake. We know the ingredients, we know how to cook, we know there's many books, anyone can do it, so on and so forth. Not really a huge stake and so on and so forth. And I mentioned to you complicated. Complicated actually is less than complex. Complicated, believe it or not, nuclear power is complicated. Rocket science and sending a rocket even to Mars is complicated, right? And why is it complicated? Is because there are certainties for the machine. Exactly the output. And even if there is a slight thing, they will actually report it and adjust it immediately, and then everything will function rather well. Predictability. Complex, it is not. This is where the healthcare is. In contrast, simple, complicated. A complex issue is that raising a child, okay? Or why is it complex? It's because we are adaptive system. We have free will. We can think. We have emotion. And believe it or not, I don't know if some of you actually experienced this or not. Maybe one day your friend is or colleague is smiling at you, and next day he or she doesn't even know you, or I don't know. I don't want to be really rude, but it does happen, believe it or not. So it's adaptive system. We are affected by our emotion, by our thinking, by our lack of sleep and tiredness and burnout. So a complex adaptive system is a collection of individual agents, this is us, with the freedom to act in ways that are not always totally predictable. Very true. And whose actions are interconnected, that one agent, one healthcare provider action change the context for our agents, right? And this is the characteristics of the adaptive system. If I take just one, I should say agent action are based on internalized rules. It means they are in the biochemical system, the rules are a series of chemical reactions. You have your own brain, your own thinking. Okay, so in the human level, the rules are expressed as instincts or constructs, mental models. Okay, so you are free to actually have all this and internalize it and then act upon it. Okay, so we have one of the models talking about this is, so you have simple systems, and then complicated is they divide into two, because some for deployment and soft skills and for hard skills and technology is complicated. But then you've got the complex, which is huge. And the more people, okay, in a system, the more become more complex, and then it becomes chaotic. Okay, there are even theory, and there's complex theories, and so on and so forth. So this is another representation of it. As you can see, more people, more chaotic it becomes. And there are many models for actually, for complexity, how you can actually address them. Like one of it is the Scrum, where it says, if you are in this, if you like us in the complex system, you need transparency, you need frequent inspection and adaptation. Okay, transparency, we need to know what's happening. Okay, frequent inspection, we need to do all the time an improvement, small improvement in the process all the time. And then we have to adapt once we see something that it needs to be changing. So it's like continuous like this. I call it RCA3, because you need to action what you actually recommend, and then audit just to be sure that it is actually implemented, and then carry on. I know it's like it looks like PDCA, but it's for human way of thinking. Okay, so for complex system, it's not enough just to actually work on the objectives. No, each step is an objective. Each step is an independent an outcome by itself, and you need to go slowly with this. And this is how the actually artificial intelligence technology, they do very small steps, and then they actually check everyone, because if it's efficient, then actually the outcome is better. So low transparency can lead to a position that diminishes value and increases risk. Inspection enables adaptation. Inspection without adaptation is considered pointless. So these Scrum events are designed to actually provoke change. Adaptation becomes more difficult if the people are not really empowered. You need the staff to be empowered, so that actually can take a decision and relearn and everything, and then report as well their actually experience, and if there's any gaps. And it's something that should be just like this. It's the psychological needs, where they can have a safe environment, and then they're empowered, and they can actually be part of a team. Without that, actually, if we keep concentrating and looking only at the objective without actually the improvement in the process, people can actually utilize all this just to actually reach a simple objective, right? So we have to empower our staff to do and to improve by themselves and be part of the team. So what's happening in the literature for for other tracks? So we have the technology track, and then in here it says medicine is a science of uncertainty, which is true, and the art of probability. Everything's probability, so it's uncertain. This reflects the Bayesian nature of our approach, meaning it's iterative. you have prior beliefs, understanding, but patient presentation should not be totally dependent on. You have the presentation, but you have to have the previous prevalences of certain diseases. So you need to combine both, because sometimes when you are in a situation where is stressful or busy, you actually emotionally you are high, and you really just trying to look at the patient and presentation and thing without actually thinking or thinking, say, well, what is actually prevalence in here? Another question, please. Which treatment would you actually use or utilize this time? If I tell you this 400 out of 600 people will die, would you choose that treatment, or would you choose now a probable treatment? Rowan? Okay, please vote. Okay, thank you. So what's the so 44 for A and 56 for B. Okay, thank you. Right.
Doctor, we have here, sorry to interrupt you, we have here some question from Mahmoud Zaid. He said at the first quarter of the lecture, a slide showed that we can reduce harm, but we cannot reduce error. In my opinion, I think we can reduce error through reducing its probability and impact, or increasing our abilities to detect, thus reducing the error.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Harm, yes, by learning from our errors and everything. Can we reduce errors? Maybe. Can we stop them? No, it's impossible. Because for many, many reasons, there are a lot of biases, which we will show you from all the studies. You will definitely make an error, all right? The biases is in hundreds of biases, and you will actually, all the studies I have here, at least maybe 10 studies now I'll go through, and I have included over, I think, 100 of references at the end. No, you cannot eliminate error. You cannot prevent error that easily, right? You will always make an error. As long we are a complex system, as long you have a way of thinking, which is different to others, as long you have emotion, as long you actually exposed to actually being tired and being human, it's impossible to actually stop error. One of the actually, Dr. Nada, we asked two questions, صح Nada? Two questions so far about the treatment. Isn't that correct,
Yes.
Nada? Okay.
Yes.
So the first actually for the one who asked, and actually not just the one who asked, for everybody, of course, for everyone. But just to answer that question, which is actually, okay, I wasn't going to actually talk about this, but maybe it is for the best. The first actually vote was treatment A was 61%, Nada, and B was 39%. Okay. Yes. And the second one was treatment A was 44%, right? And B was 56%. Isn't that correct, Nada?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And for the one who asked the question, and for the participants, this is a famous experiment, and I have the reference for it. And you just made an error. All of us, we just made an error now, believe it or not. So you're not immune to error, to the one who asked the question, because treatment A in both actually questions is the same. Believe it or not, it's the same.
Yes, we have one answer from Amal Sayari. I think she mentioned that it is the
Yeah,
same treatment for the
it is the
question.
same treatment because what happened? It's a simple example, but it is more complex in our reality in healthcare. But as you can see here, you can save 200 people out of 600. So what's left is 400 people will die, right? It's the same thing. Now, this is called framing bias, risk-averse bias, right? We don't lie. If something presented to you by a patient, by information, by pharmaceutical company, how they frame it to you, they can actually guide you to where they want you to be. So to the one who asked the question, this is really just a small experiment and just to prove to you that we are not immune to error. We just made an error and it's risk averse. And this risk averse is a normal thing. It affects our emotion. Okay, we do not, we react differently to negative news, to positive news, right? So does that answer his question, Dr. Nada?
I think he just has a comment, and I think it was a good answer for him.
Okay, good. So let me summarize things for any root cause analysis, okay, or risk assessment. Remember the 3 words. First, of course, what happened? You need to map the process or what happened, all right, as a chronology. But prevention, detection, management. Let me tell you, the most error in the West and litigation, believe it or not, in diagnosis, and you're not actually protected where if you do make the wrong diagnosis and then there's a treatment and then there's a patient harm and so on and so forth, it is not, you're not protected in the West. So prevention, did we cause it? If there's a root cause analysis or risk assessment, if you for risk assessment as a control, prevention first, you put controls. For detection, for example, detection, let me tell you for a simple thing, a fire alarm. A fire alarm is a detection. It detects the fire. It does not prevent it, and it does not manage it. It only detects. Management control is the water sprinklers. It does not prevent, it does not detect, but it manages the fire. Crash cart is a management system because it's, a patient might crash, you have the antidote, you have the defib, you have reference, medication, whatever. It's a management system control, which is fine, you know, it's no issue. But you have to be aware because a lot of actually incidents or risks, they put a lot of management system rather than prevention or detection. Okay, so really, if you remember these 3 words and the context and certain things I've talked about, you really go a long way. I've seen it. I'm invested in my staff. They're doing wonderful. I have wonderful staff really doing well. So type of errors is skill-based, rule-based, and knowledge-based, right? Which a lot of you heard it. And this is actually a task-based, okay? It's a task-based because the task can be routine and skill-based, all right? But sometimes we become complacent, where just like with that man in the snow, he thinks that it was a routine thing. Cleaning your car, I mean, come on. Okay, but remember, if that the environment in that snow car, if it was not as harsh, maybe sunny, he would have known, seen his car if it's the same type, the same color, because maybe as like everyone's car have stickers. My car always dirty, I'm afraid. You know, I know it. You know, I know it because it's messy. But it's a routine, but with a different environment, it becomes catastrophe. Rule-based, of course, if there's ins and buts and type do A and do B, a lot of errors, a lot of errors. Knowledge-based is for our residents and for novice situation. Come back to rule-based even for expert if they become fixated, right? So omission, commission, execution, and this is how even litigation when it comes to reporting. You know, did we actually omit doing something? Did we do something we should have done? or did we not do something that we should have done? And execution, we've done the right thing, but we have done it really wrong. Type of control, you can have different type of controls. As I said, here for the literature, a systematic review, which includes 34 studies from the USA, UK, Australia, and so on and so forth, that the most common medical misadventure leading to lawsuits was failure or delay in diagnosis. This is in the West. What I've written in myself, that healthcare providers need to be aware of when to use each thinking style, as different tasks require different type of thinking, when knowledge-based and rule-based require more conscious RS like rational style than ES experiential style. And the skill-based routine task could be done by experiential style, as this would have a direct impact on medical error. The study results contribute also to the possibility of predicting healthcare workers' behavior and the adaptive consequences of these behaviors in patient care, and strategies to monitor and reduce patients' harm, as RS and ES seem to be a stable trait predictor. Actually, rational and experiential style are independent, believe it or not, because by MRI, the different regions of the brain use different styles. However, we use the easy one, the lazy one. They call it type 1. I call it autopilot. Some call it rational, of course. Sorry, experiential. And the other one is really rational, which is the type 1. Sorry, type 2. And the other one is I call it mindfulness, or being mindful, being actually present, aware, more awareness. So these types of tasks, skill-based and rule-based and knowledge-based, we need to invest. This is the second way, or second actually recent, for the last maybe 20 years or less, thereabout, there is a move towards cognitive actually failures of cognitive behavior, and geared towards the task. It's a task-based, how you should really be thinking of, or how should be it should be addressing the task. So the task is going through the task from A to Z and analyze it, just like what you do in a system. Okay, another actually, I'm not going to actually go deep into this, but this is really important that to keep in mind, is because one of the tracks. So we have the technology, the cognition, or cognitive behavior, and then some actually investing in fast and frugal heuristics, where fast and frugal, because they've noticed that, but even though it sounds simple or fast, but actually it's trying to help healthcare providers making decision very quickly in any environment and for any diseases, right? For example, this one actually, all these actually the references are there for different actually diseases and diagnosis. This one is for depression, and they developed it for school counselors to identify any depression in students, and it's actually used in many schools in the state by simple, really just yes and no. Even though it looks simple, but it's extremely complicated, because they research what are the most important elements, and then they put it there, and they use it. They actually, with least a number of predictors, they can actually make this graph. And this is one for depression. Another one was for this actually was used for an ER during a crisis, emergency crisis, very quickly, to actually triage a patient. Okay, this one is for ST elevation, whether to actually admit to CCU, coronary care unit. I believe it or not, honestly, it's interesting article. They have saved a lot of admission to CCU, and it was very accurate compared to actually previous. And I really would urge you to actually just look at this. And can we benefit? Yes, we can. Every specialty can benefit from this. Okay. And one of the things that's really important as well for which is we have a lot of bias is the statistics or certain really percentages and risk factors and things like that, because there where actually we have as well a deficiency. For example, here they looked involved 160 gynecologists for the screening of mammogram, and the mammogram was sensitive of 90% and with false positive rate of 9% and prevalence of disease of 1%. Okay, and physicians were asked what they would tell a woman who tested positive about her chances of having breast cancer. So that, you know, what to tell her, would they start a treatment or not, and so on and so forth. So they told them the mammogram is 90% sensitive, but there's a false positive of 9%, and the prevalence of the disease 1%. The right answer is 1 out of 10. That's the best answer. 1 out of 10 women. So really, it's you know, something that you can actually debate, but the result was 60% of the gynecologists actually said it's 8 or 9 out of 10. So they would start treatment and they would tell her she's really at huge risk. And 18% they said is 1 in 100, so only 1%. So not to worry about. So it's huge variations. And this Fasiprugal, if you can, you know, if they equipped a simple thing that if we take, if we say 1,000 women, okay, and if you look at this as the prevalence of this is 1%, so really 10 will have the cancer and 990 no cancer. And then you will take actually the sensitivity, you know, for the 10. So it's 9 will be positive and 1 negative because it's 90% sensitive. And then you've got the false positive, which is affecting the 990. So 89 will be positive, of course, false positive. So if you take these two, 89 positive and 9, almost 100. Okay, it's almost 100 out of 1,000, which is 1 out of 10. So we can be equipped with things like that. This is a very simple thing as well about mycoplasma of pneumonia for children. Believe it or not, it's used in hospitals. I'm not going to go through this, but this is another interesting topic about making error and reducing actually the use of MRI, which costs $1,000 in HSAs, and hours of waiting, by literally 3 simple diagnostic in the bed for the patient. And it reduces, as I said, this is the article name, diagnostic stroke in the acute vestibular syndrome. Bedside exam more sensitive than early MRI. It was a long study, a few years, and actually proved to be more accurate and save a lot of money. So I'm not going to go through this, many examples of that. This is a simple one for actually suicidal. This is how they do it. You have to look at all the classifier, all the false positive and negative and previous, and try to see which one actually, like the vital view, so that you can actually have them in. Right. In the reporting system, you will need to actually know the difference between, of course, events. We have morbidity, mortality, and incidence. Okay, so you would ask a question: was there a deviation from the scope of services, the standard? Again, it's prevention, detection, management. It will fail to prevent, it will fail to detect, it will manage well. Maybe the patient coded, but we did not manage it well. So it's and there's a death, it's a static event. If not, it's a mortality. And is there an issue with prevention, detection, management? Yes, it's an incident. Otherwise, the morbidity is just the evolution of the disease and or the intervention. This is the prevalence of errors. In the UK is 11% for admission. By the way, USA says here 6.5. This is an old one, the 2010, 2020. I have an article. It's now 9% of all USA admissions. And in the reporting, believe it or not, only 5 to 20% is reported, and a lot being hidden. Okay, and but what's available now is actually reported, even 5 to 20%. It's like, excuse me, 6 jumbo jet falling out of the sky. Believe it or not. So would you fly again? No. It's the 3rd cause of death, medical errors in the state. Of course, not counting the injuries and disabilities. Okay, death by medicine is huge. And that's why I said to you is there are many ways that fast and frugal, cognitive biases, where they identified hundreds of them, and they are trying to address them. And of course, we have the classical way of doing actually system improvement, and also the trying to address things with technology. So you have the risk assessment, okay, and with controls, prevention, detection here. And then when there's an incident reported, you actually do iterative learning and try to improve your controls. Everyone's seen this and familiar about the Swiss cheese model, okay? And after this is nice, as you can see, whenever there is holes or gaps in system, you can get a near miss here if you stop it. And with time, you will align errors after error after error after gap, and then reaching the patient. Okay, but every day it is actually literally is like that. There are errors, there are minor errors, near misses, close calls until reach the patient. Unsafe acts. Now, one of the things that really we criticized for the Swiss, and by the way, the one who developed it called James Reason, he's a psychologist. A lot of people don't know that, and he criticized himself to say, you know, for this is the simple thing for healthcare. And I've got the article, I've added it into this presentation, and we are forgetting the unsafe act of the human. So even if you take two layers of the system, okay, two errors in three systems, you will have 3 times 3, 9 times chance of making error. And if you increase the layers but the more holes, if the combination, you have 27 times chance of making an error. It's big, but believe it or not, the gaps in the human biases, it's much more than this. Okay, so in our reporting system, the taxonomy can be used for actually system failure. You can have it built. We built it actually in our reporting system, and you can actually at least classify your system failure so that you can be more focused when you address it. And there is something called action pyramid, which looks like this. And it says that, you know, for every certain near misses, okay, you'll get a fatality, like death or central event. And of course, it improves through time. And then it says if they for every 300,000 of risky behavior, you will get a fatality. Okay.
Dr. Adel?
Yes.
We have 17 minutes remaining. I don't know if we have, we can add the pulse question, the second,
if people can ask question, okay. If they have any question, they can. But let me then just then quickly give them many ideas as well. So in here, it's been tested to be proven to be right. If you look, this is real data from us, real data with actual numbers. As you can see, so you can reduce harm, okay, where you increase the learning, and then the more learning you increase, the more you increase in only near misses, and you reduce the minor, reaching the patient, severe, the moderate, even central event. This is a true graph from us, okay, as you can see. With time, it pays off, okay? And I want to show you actually so that we can speed up things. I'm not going through this one here. Okay, these are on the left studies that studied the system. Okay. Okay, here they studied many systems and individual cognition, and they found, for example, in this study, that the 46% was system and human, but 28% was completely accounted by cognitive failure of a human. Okay, Some people studied this, okay, system, human factor, right, with all its elements, as you can see here, and this is what they found. If you can see here, many actually studied it recently. This is a 2019 one. As you can see, for example, this is the accident, okay? The organization is amounted to about 18%, unsafe supervision, 48 here, unsafe precondition for unsafe act, the environment and human and system. Unsafe act, purely humans, 100%. Okay, and another one studied the international patient safety goals, and they found human actually contributed more. Another one, right? This is how much for everyone. This is how much, actually, believe it or not, how much biases we have in our brain. So one of them will catch you. Okay, so you have all this interaction, your cognitive, and then you have all these biases that will actually make an error. And that's what I said to you, the gaps in here are much more than any other system. And these are different really errors, different biases, I should say. Okay, so this is now one of the reports that for 2022, top 10 patient safety concerns, biases, cognitive biases. All right, now it's the trend going to there to address the human, not just the system. So you have the input, there's a lot of biases there. How you address people, how you actually look at different, background or nationality, or even colors, or even gender, believe it or not, heal me, don't harm me, and then check me as feedback. There's a lot of biases. And one can say, well, you want to care? Well, I've got the care, but I'm sure you can see these two walls or these two pairs are really not the same. Okay, so there's education, experience, skills, and then of course, this is again, whenever there is a good psychological safety, you will get actually more rewarding reporting. And this is very interesting one, actually, in my opinion. The red and the blue. The red actually is people reporting anonymously without actually putting the names. As you can see, with time, when there's improvement in psychological safety, the red becomes less and less with time. This is about 90% now compared to 46, almost half when we started. Okay. Upon the system, you can have different categories and to address different things. And it's very, very, very important because what you have, you can actually search by area, severity. You can be very focused. Okay. You can see where your pains are. For example, if for research, if you have a full risk assessment, whether it's MORS or Humpty Dumpty for children, you get incidents reported. High risk, he was high risk, but no fall. Good, no issues. Low risk, no fall. Good. But if you have high risk with fall, that means the assessment was correct. You correctly assessed the patient, but you did not manage that well. Okay, there your intervention. So then at least then you know what to do and where, what to address. Compared to maybe someone was assessed low risk, but failed. So maybe we need to invest on how to teach the nurses, for example, how to actually do risk assessment for risk assessment. Okay. And the same for other medication, for even behavior. We have behavior issues, and then you can actually have intervention for a specific. This is interesting as well. I looked at all the severe incidents, what time they happen. You can see what time they happen, and then you can see how to address it, because is it during the shift time? Is it during the lunch time? And believe it or not, in some countries, they don't allow judges to actually do any judgment before lunch, because they found that, they will actually be negative. HROs, all about risk and incident management, and you can actually improve with time. As you can see, you improve all that with, actually, this is all this improvement if you actually look at the definition of all these 5 dimensions, depend on the actual reporting system. So the reporting system is vital. You can actually have the system and human factors. I'm not going to go through this one because this is the type of thinking I mentioned to you, type 1 and type 2, where it affects us. Let me ask a quick question, if you don't mind, sorry. What is the exercise? Just one last question before we finish. I think do we have question for Rowan?
Rowan, are you ready for the 4th polls? Okay. Yes, could you please tell me the question? Number 4. Number 4, Rowan, you have it?
What is it? The dose of combination of drugs, X and Y. Rowan?
Yes, it's up.
Okay. Please participate. You can take 20 seconds, no problem. The dose of a combination of drugs, drug X and B, is equal to 110 milligram. Drug X is 100 milligram more than drug Y. What is the dose of drug Y? Is it 5 mil, 10 mil, or 15 mil? So both of them 110 mil together, but drug A is 100 milligram more than drug Y, sorry. So what is the dose of drug Y? Is it 5, 10, or 15? Okay, Rowan? Okay, so they just keep it there for a minute, Rowan, please. Let me just use this person as well. Okay, so the majority, 74%, yeah, says 10 milligrams. Is that right, Toneda?
Yes,
Let's
74
write
10
down
milligram answered.
24%.
Followed by 5, and then 15 is the less.
15 is 3%. Okay, excellent. Okay, now this is where actually this experiment is of use in the research and other use in different ways. It was developed by someone who had actually Nobel Prize in psychology and economic. The majority 74, they say 10 milligram. I'm afraid it's the wrong answer. And this is the difference between type 1 or system 1 and system 2 thinking. To the one who asked the question, as you can see, we will make an error. 74% made an error, right? The right answer is 5 milligram. So it's easy to make that rationale, type thinking, because type system 1 is automatic, is lazy because it's trying to save in energy, all right? And that's what I say to you. Believe it or not, they've done this for judges in the court for different tests. And again, almost 80% made harsh and wrong judgment to the actually court. So they stopped people from judging for lunch for serious cases. So it's 5 milligram, and thank you very much for that. So we are surrounded, as you can see, by a lot of issues: environment, innate and physical, that will affect how we think. I'm not going to go through this type of thinking, but I need you to finish with this. So I just need really 2 minutes. Here is risk management is very important, is documented in the literature that if we actually go through the task, what could go wrong, it helps. Force and function is to make people do, force them to do certain things. And then as you can see in the RCA, sometimes from patient safety, from SOSIBAHI, or in MOH, strong action, weak action, or intermediate action. Let me make it for you supervised. Prevention, detection, management. If the control is to prevent, that's strong. If to detect is an intermediate, if it's just to manage it's a weak thing. I like this one just to give you a different from healthcare. As you can see, remember the cooker, the dials used to be at the back. And okay, I can see, which is dangerous because when you reach for them, you might actually feel the heat. With time, I'm sure a lot of you in KFMC saw this cooker. We have that as well. As you can see, the dials now in the front, okay, and they put stickers so that to help you. But stickers, you need to train, you need to pose, you might get it wrong. In my opinion, there's a simple actually design if they used it, but they haven't sadly, and that's why you can be innovative. If we use this way, I'm sure it will be much easier than training and putting stickers and putting resources. Here is just a depiction of the real thing, and almost you don't need to train anyone for that. Okay. So in summary, if it's a serial system, okay, from one healthcare to provide to another, minimum 19% of failure will happen. This is inevitable. There'll be a 19% error. Now, whether that error will cause harm, it just depends, all right? It depends if it's a near miss or minor or moderate, if it's just a paracetamol by mistake or if it's large or harm. And the parallel system, which is different, of course, but sometimes use is less than 1%. How we can improve, we can actually be more aware, slow down, be aware of prevalences, biases, which can be actually taught. I read this quote for myself: "Is to err is human, however, not learning from it, it is inhuman." Zero harm journey requires us to ask questions before any task. What could go wrong? Then address these risks with controls to prevent, detect, and manage. We should also ask ourselves when something goes wrong, why did it go wrong, and then put controls for their causes. And for the task, is simply, we will err if we do not address how we think and put system system measures to help. We do need autopilot thinking, autopilot for routine ones. This is very efficient, but with system in place to minimize, of course, distraction and use of standardized care, checklist, and force and function. Okay, we do need also to address teamwork and staffing workload. For tasks requiring rule-based thinking, we need to have higher risk. We need to be mindful of thinking, to be present at the moment. So this is very important. And like this little child, it just he is trying to come down, and he knows it's risky, it's high, so he needs to reduce the risk. He's trying to be mindful rather than just going for it and banging his head. He's trying to soften and manage the risk, either reducing the likelihood of injury. And he's trying really he's a good risk manager, I'm afraid, compared to maybe
smart risk manager, not good only.
So it's
okay,
very
Doctor,
smart.
Can I have one question for you, Doctor, in 1 minute before we conclude the session? What is the most important feature in every reporting system, the golden feature that should be available in all reporting system, whether it's electronic or manual? What is the most vital or the most important feature in every reporting system?
And okay, well done, boy. Okay, so he successfully done it. Thank you. And all the this is my emails and mobile WhatsApp if needed, and all the references are here. Okay, for reporting system, first of all, from the beginning, they need people. They need to actually be part of it. Okay, engaged, build it up together. Okay, the category and subcategories. They need to mimic their own life, how they do the business. For example, a stick needle injury, our infection control. They have a form. Okay, their flow. These will help when we added them to the reporting system. People will report that, and the infection control will be very, very specific in their improvement. They know where the pains are from which ward and which needle stick injury, how it happened. They will falls, the same with actually pressure ulcer. It's having the excuse me, full system owned by the front line, appropriate excuse me, category and
Yes.
subcategories, so that people can benefit directly and focus on what to improve. Okay,
Engagement.
and
Yeah.
yes, engagement, and then after that really is to be able to report anonymously, and no retaliation. Working together, a junior can actually handle the incident and engage others. So it's a huge journey, but it's extremely rewarding. And we have to remember there is a lot of races, there's a lot of tracks, cognition, human making errors. Okay, it's a human error. We have to shift our mindset, not just system. Our system is complex, not complicated. In the industry where we got our system thinking is from industry that have machine system. We are
Okay.
complex. Okay, so we have to address that. The trucks, technology, cognition, cognitive behavior, fast and frugal, and then also the last track. What was it? I forgot now. But in general, they're looking at systems where they can actually predict, okay, and lessen the unpredictability. And all of them is about really controlling that uncertainty, right? Any other questions?
Okay, there is a question here. يعطيكم العافية. فيديو الطفل موجود في اللينك المرسل. هل يمكنني مشاركته مع الزملاء وهل هو موجود في اللينك؟
Yes, everything is available. We can actually share, we can whatever they need, and they can actually send me anything, even WhatsApp or anything, or contact Patient Safety Center. Not an issue. We can have as PDF. We can actually send any, or be specific. You can actually send an email. It's not a problem. It's as long we learn, we learn. And as just to really final message, we will err. We just had 2 experiments, which is very interesting. 74% failed because they used system 1, the easy way out, or without actually giving a bit of thought. There was also the treatment. Again, is we are risk averse. We've been affected by our emotion. And actually, pharmaceutical, I had 3, 4 examples about the difference between absolute risk, relative risk, and odds. Actually, it is used a lot by pharmaceutical to affect physicians into deciding on a certain treatment. This is actually documented. So I hope that was useful for everyone.
We came to the end. Thank you, Dr. Adel, for addressing this very important, interesting topic. I interest myself in the presentation. And on behalf of Saudi Patient Safety Center, we would like to thank Prof. Adel Batawil and the audience also for their active participation as part of the Saudi Patient Safety Center efforts to provide you with timely topic and interesting speakers. We would appreciate if you would fill out the evaluation survey provided at the end of the session. Thank you for joining us again today, and we look forward to welcoming you back in future webinars.